Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Nerdcast on the Angry Marks Podcast Network with your host, Will Huckaby and Mika Villas.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of the week. It's time for the Wrestling Nerdcast. As usual, this is a fan-supported podcast brought to you every week on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. If you like what you hear, if you like the guests that we have on, if you want to bring on more guests and talk all things wrestling and pop culture with them, be sure to, check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/The Wrestling Nerdcast. We gladly take the kind of jingles, but we rather have the kind that folds, and we have all kinds of amazing tiers and gifts and prizes based on your donations to this amazing podcast. Once again, huge shout-out to our network, the Angry Marks Podcast. I want to say a huge shout-out to our sponsors, Indie Customs. Find them on Twitter, find them on Facebook, Pro Wrestling World, find that group and that page on Facebook for all of your pro wrestling needs that you probably can't get from the Angry Marks Podcast Network. And last but not least, Behavior Driven. I use them, I love them, I endorse them for all of my storage needs, computer needs, all that high-tech stuff that I just don't get because I'm starting to get old. As usual, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, the disrespectful intellectual, the Southern gentleman, reality TV star, and national icon, the incredible Will Huckaby. And I'm joined week in, week out by my co-host. She is one half of the World Kings commentary team. She is The Office. She is the voice of Lucha Atlanta, Combat Entertainment, and several other of your favorite indie companies. She is the lover of waffles, the voice of the speech impediment, the Aphrodite of affection. She is the receiver of all things unsolicited, Miss Chicago Win, a.k.a. Miss Hashtag What That Mouth Do, a.k.a. Miss Buy Me a Taco, the one, the only, Mika Villas. Hey, Mika.
Hey there, Huckaby. How the hell are you today?
Oh, man, I am living the dream. Not really. I tell you what, for tonight's show, I was very tempted to pull a Mika and get some Himalayan water blessed by Tibetan monks, but I refrained.
Oh, I didn't.
You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you didn't because, that's what you do, the Himalayan water blessed by Tibetan monks. But crazy weekend. But before we get into it, let's talk about your weekend. How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. I eased into this weekend. There was a new promotion in Roanoke, Alabama. Wrestling United. You call me The Office? Well, I was not quite The Office. I was the ring announcer for this promotion. We had Marty Jannetty, Joyce Grable, Ross Ranger Ross was out. The ECW original, the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer was in the house. Tommy Dreamer was our scheduled main event against somebody you're familiar with, Blacklist Uno, who's been on the show, a.k.a. Murder One. Those two have fought all over the place, and they didn't quite have the match 101. There was some interference by Dayway, and it turned into a tag team match. Uno and Dreamer picked up a cool victory over Chip Day and Big Zan. So I was there in Roanoke, and we will be back on May the 4th for Wrestling United. I will be ring announcer again. It was a great crowd. The people of Roanoke were very welcoming and open to having wrestling in their town. A nice little spot. So I invite everybody to come on out on May 4th and join us again for Wrestling United. So I enjoyed myself. They enjoyed themselves. I almost died a couple times. Got a microphone slammed into my chest, and, that's a large area, but it hurt. But, I digress. Good show all around. Good show other than me getting hurt.
I think that tonight's show is going to be so different than usual because I'm pretty sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard by now, if you've been under a rock, then you have definitely heard about my weekend, my Alabama debut. I was also debuting in Alabama this weekend, except for I was not at Wrestling United. I was at Southeastern Pro Wrestling in Carbon Hill, Alabama. Before I tell, and tonight's episode, I'm basically going to give the fans and listeners the full story. What I posted on social media was a very condensed, even though it was a very long post, it was still a very condensed version. I feel like a lot of people have taken it and ran with it and used it to further their own agenda and stuff. And so I want to get it out there of what's the truth, what really happened, what didn't happen, and my actual feelings. But before I get into that, Mika, I know you saw the post. I know you've seen it. It's been everywhere. I was just on a podcast for Georgia Wrestling History where I was informed that by yesterday evening, just that post on Georgia Wrestling History had gotten over 7,000 views in 12 hours. My original post has gotten over 200 shares. It's been seen by thousands of people. But what was your first reaction when you saw it?
I was very sad. I was very sad that in this day and age, there is such blatant racism, especially in something as open as wrestling. Wrestling is, quite frankly, for everybody, be it man, be it woman, be it child, be it straight, be it gay, be it transgender, be it old, be it young, be it human, be it inhuman. Wrestling is for everybody. And the camaraderie in wrestling in and out of the ring, take into account that you guys literally have each other's lives in the palm of your hands, and you guys can cross any sort of barriers, color, gender, religion, to do that, to have someone, to have people, because it's unfortunately not just one person out there, but to have people just be so blatantly hurtful is sad. It really saddens me.
All right, so I'm going to tell the whole story. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us. Bear with me. It's not a very long story. There's a lot of details that I didn't put into the post. Basically, I was booked for the show. They've been running kind of like an invasion takeover angle with the heels and stuff. Somebody that you're familiar with, Mika, Matt Sea-Dog Collins and then G Smooth. They go by the tag team, the Nation of Destruction. They used to run a company, OSWA, here in Georgia. They're kind of doing an invasion angle there. And so I was brought in as kind of like the hired hitman and the newest member of the faction, you know what I'm saying? And that was fine. Originally, I thought that I was booked for one match, and then they pulled the okie doke, and they booked me for two. They booked me a triple threat match, and then they booked me in a 10-man tag team match, a 10-man tag team elimination match and the winner got whoever got the winning pin or the final pin got a title shot with any title for anybody in the company and stuff. So I get to the building. It was very nice. I got to the building early. I got there about 2:30, whatever, 2:30ish. The ring was already set up, which was cool, whatever. To the middle of nowhere, Alabama. I'm not even gonna lie. To the middle of nowhere. It's right next to. Of course, it's like most wrestling companies in a lower income neighborhood. The projects was right beside it, but that's neither here nor there. The promoter was very nice. We chopped it up. We was talking junk, cracking jokes back and forth. Showtime happened. They had about 60 or 75 people there, which for a town that size and what I saw in the town really wasn't that bad. At the beginning of the show, the promoter, Shane Baker, made an announcement saying, because I guess they had already had issues with fans making very racist comments and being very inappropriate. They're making inappropriate comments, making racial slurs, et cetera, to where I guess one of the wrestlers had gotten so heated that he had actually knocked a fan's hat off of his head in previous shows. But he had made a statement saying, hey, we will not tolerate any kind of hate speech, anything inappropriate, no profanity. If we hear it, if you say it, you'll be removed from the building and you'll be banned. Cool, whatever. I'm a heel, and I'm a heel, and living in the South, I know what it takes to get over as a heel. So I was very cocky, very arrogant with the match. Not the greatest match. One of the guys in the match was very green, but we made do. We get to the 10-man match. We put it together. I'm getting the winning hand because next month I was supposed to get a title shot. Excuse me. We're going through the match, Mika. We getting ready, we do the double down. We do, the indie-rific waterfall spot where everybody's hitting a big move and everybody's powdering out. And then we go to the dive sequence. So I gorilla press a kid, boom, into the crowd. I'm going for my dive. I hit the dive bad. I'm selling to the outside because now we're getting to the rapid fire elimination pins. We're basically taking the match home. While I'm down there on the ground, there's been this older white gentleman who was in like a motorized scooter. He's been just talking just nonstop, and of course, I don't care. I'm a heel. It was nothing inflammatory, nothing really crossing the line at first, nothing whatsoever. Him and his girlfriend just his fans do it with that. To die off the start yelling specifically at me and like, hey, you black guy, I want to get a picture of you. Hey, you in the red, I know you hear us talking. Turn around, we want to get a picture of you on the ground. Things like that, and I'm ignoring them. I'm like, I'm a heel. I'm not going to turn around and let you get a picture of me when I'm on the ground. Not happening. I start getting up, and the guy says specifically, yeah, that's right, boy. Give your knees where you belong. And at that point, let me pause the story because I have to say this. I've been a professional wrestler for 13 years. I've wrestled all around the Southeast. I've wrestled in some of the most backwoods country towns. I've wrestled in clan country. I've had death threats. I've had situations where I've had to legitimately hide in the trunk of a car because fans were threatening to lynch me. I've had to have police escorts out of the county because I've gotten so much heat. I've been called the N-word. I've been called a jigaboo. I've been called a spade, a spook, a lawn jockey, a monkey. I've been called every racist slur that you can think of. And for the most part, I'm not going to let that bug me because in my mind, it's always been, if as a heel, I can get you to come out of pocket so much that in front of your children, your fans, your neighbors, your coworkers, you let your racism show, then maybe I've done my job. It's not right, but I've done my job. I've gotten you just that pissed. The one word I will not tolerate is being called a boy. Because if you call me a nigger, if you call me a spade, a spook, a monkey, you're just insulting my race. If you call me a boy, now you're trying to emasculate me. Now you're emasculating me and offending me as a man. And that's something that I will never let anybody do. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, but more than all of that, I'm a grown man. And I will never let anybody emasculate me as a grown man. So when he said, yeah, that's right, boy, which we both know, Mika, in the South, boy was always used towards black men to
emasculate them, to demean them, to make them feel inhuman. So yeah, that is in the South, especially in that context with that tone that was presented, then that was directly something that was meant to be highly offensive. Yes.
So when he says that, now he has my hair raised up. And so I very discreetly, because there were families in the audience, because there were kids there, very discreetly, I gave him the finger. I did my best to make sure that no kids saw it. I turned to the side where I kind of had my back, and I kind of had my back to the kids, and the rest of my body was kind of blocking it from where the majority of the kids were at. But I gave him the finger. And then I got up, got to the ring, and finished. I get the winning pin, whatever. Me and the promoter, like, we're going to have this promo where we're talking junk back and forth to set up for the next show. So, of course, being a heel wrestler, I'm like, hey, I'm taking your Alabama Heavyweight Championship, and I'm taking it back to North Carolina where there's real wrestlers, where there's real men, and there's nothing that you redneck, inbred, trailer park living, toothless, food stamp receiving, cousin Marion rednecks can. There's nothing y'all can do about it, basically. And of course, the fans react. It's a promo that I've done several times over the years, and it's nothing different than any other wrestler has ever said. When you go to a small town, there's a heel, you and some fans, you talk about them being in trailer parks, talk about them being toothless and ignorant and rednecks, whatever the case may be, whether they're white, black, whatever. You're just talking about this small town country living. So we finished the promo. Of course, they're booming, whatever. And then myself, G Smooth, and Matt Sea-Dog Collins, we all go into a locker room. So we're all talking. We're, of course, and I'm going to break kayfabe. We're talking to the guys we're working with. Hey, great job. We should have done this. We should have done that. Hey, giving tips and advice. A lot of guys in the ring, a lot of guys in that match were very green. All of a sudden, the referee comes up, and he's like, hey, man, I'm really sorry about what was said about y'all. I apologize. And at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Well, the match is over, the show is over, and we hear the promoter still talking, and it was a really shitty sound system, low-quality sound system, so it kind of sounded like Charlie Brown's mother. Won't, 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 won't. And I'm just like, man, I wish this promoter would shut up. Like, he's so talkative, he's going to kill our heat, da-da-da-da-da-da. And the promoter comes into the locker room, and he's like, hey, guys, I'm very sorry about that. That fan is leaving. He'll never come back here again. And I'm just like, okay, I still didn't know what was going on. I'm just like, all right, whatever, no problem. What was going on? Matt Collins' wife comes in, and she actually tells us the story. Hey, that guy and his girlfriend, they got kicked out. When y'all got to the locker room, he was arguing because he was fussing. He was like, hey, why is it okay for him to call us a redneck, but we can't call that nigger a nigger? And at that point, he was escorted out of the building with his girlfriend. Now, funny story is, the gentleman and the female in question was the referee's father and the father's girlfriend. When I found that out, I was shocked. And, of course, now I understood why the referee was apologizing, because now his dad has, made some racial slurs against us, and he feels like we're going to take it out on him. And I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with you. I'm not blaming you for something that your father said. We're still fine. It's okay. Don't worry about it. The promoter tells me never just going to say, hey, I can't bring you back or nothing. So we leave the show. We're at Waffle House. I'm eating whatever. Matt Collins gets a phone call from the promoter. And he's talking. He gets off the phone. He's like, hey, Will, let me ask you a question. I'm like, what's up? He's like, can you explain this picture? And it's the picture that I posted on social media, Mika. And I'm like, oh, yes. I tell him the story. Like, yeah, the fan was talking junk. We did the dive spot. He called me a boy. He was saying a bunch of other racist stuff. And so I gave him the finger. I don't think nobody saw it. Well, man, I just talked to Shane, and he said that he can't use you anymore because they made a big fuss that they're banned from the show because they use the N-word, but you can give the fans the finger. You can give them the finger, and it's okay for you to come back. So he's not bringing you back anymore. And it shocked me. I'm like, are you serious? Like, so he's not going to bring me back because I gave a racist fan the finger for making a racist comment towards me, even though nobody else in the building saw it. Even though other fans were complaining about the statements this guy made, now he doesn't want to bring me back because I gave this racist piece of trash the finger. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And we started talking, and he was like, yeah, 9 to 10. We were both like, the fans are going to wonder why I'm not at the show, why I'm not getting this title shot. This guy's probably going to say something because he's going to be pissed off that he's banned from the show. They're going to post that picture. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to go ahead and post this picture. And I'm like, send me the picture. I'm going to post it. I'm going to post the picture. And I'm going to tell my side of the story before I let these people, badmouth me and smear my name. And that was the story. I put the story out there the next day, and it just blew up to what it was. Now, fast forward, it's shared all over Facebook and social media and Instagram. People are talking about it. People are commenting about it. Now, and don't get me wrong, when I made the post, I was like, hey, I'm not mad at the promoter. You know what? I'm just more disappointed that a fan got to dictate who worked and who didn't. And at the time, that was my feelings. Now, after several days have passed and he's made a statement, it was, oh, we never said that we weren't going to use him or he was banned. We just suspended him. At first it was, we suspended him for 90 days. And then it was, no, we just suspended him for 60 days. Mika, let's be honest. This is independent wrestling. This isn't WWE or Impact or ROH. You can't suspend anybody. You just don't fucking book them anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like that. It sounds like they're trying to keep kayfabe with the suspensions because that's what, most fans will go, oh, okay, like Becky got suspended. They can understand and relate to that, when in reality it makes them less of the bad guy, because come 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or whatever, how many days this quote unquote suspension is, people have short-term memories. They're going to forget that you were due whatever you were due, or that you were supposed to be there, and they're going to move on to the next, person. So it makes it easy for them to not book you because nobody's going to be demanding to see you.
Exactly. So now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I reached out to the promoter of Southeastern Pro Wrestling, Mr. Sean Baker. I reached out to him. I sent him a message. I offered him an opportunity to come on the show tonight to give his side of the story, because I felt like a lot of people who are sharing this story, they're using it for their own agenda. They're bad-mouthing this guy. He doesn't have it, and he's getting bombarded. And so he didn't get a chance to tell his side of the story. He still hasn't said his chance to tell the story. He's just been on the defensive. And I offered the opportunity for him to come on the show, and he said no. He politely declined. He said that his son was sick, and I can understand that. Correction. He told everybody else that he couldn't come on the show because his son was sick. What he told me was he didn't want to come on the show because of the comments being made on all of these posts. He didn't feel comfortable coming on the show. So whether it's because he didn't feel comfortable on the show because of the posts on social media, or whether it's his son, I'm going to go ahead and say it's because his son is sick, because I would hate to think that he lied on his son. Now, fast forward to now, do I feel like I was wrong? Yes. Do I think that this is total bullshit? Yes. I'm disappointed in the promoter. I'm disappointed.
Hold on. Stop. How do you feel that you were wrong? I'm confused. What were you wrong about?
I'm really pissed off. The reason why I feel like I'm wrong is because I'm a grown man. And anybody who's ever dealt with me, like, if I've done something wrong, if you catch me doing something wrong, then I'll take my lumps as a man. My biggest problem was, if he would have called me, if he would have contacted me, and it's not like he didn't have my number, it's not like he didn't have my social media, he could have Facebooked me and said, hey, call me. If he would have contacted me that night before he contacted Matt or whatever, and said, hey, I was just shown a picture of you giving a fan the finger. Can you tell me why? Because, I made this speech about no profanity and all this stuff, and, even though it's just a finger, it's still profane. Can you tell me why? I would have told him why. And if he still would have came to the same decision, hey, look, I understand, but I still can't use you because I have to be fair, then this never would have happened. You get what I'm saying? But it was the fact that he never asked me what was going on. He just immediately took this guy's word and said, hey, well, he gave us the finger, and didn't explain. And obviously these fans didn't explain why I gave him the finger. He just took their word for it and said, oh, he gave you the finger? Oh, I'm not going to use him anymore. To me, now that I've had time to think, now that I've talked to a couple of people, I feel like whether he condoned what they said or not, I don't think he disagreed. I feel that the way that they felt when it comes to black wrestlers is the same way he felt. And that's just my opinion.
Wow. So basically you're lumping him in there with them. And you're saying,
yeah, I mean, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, so you're just, I don't want to say blatantly, but you're lumping him in there and saying that promoter is racist.
Yeah, let's just be honest, because there's racism still. Wrestling's still a racist business. But anywhere else, and let's just be honest, if this would have been Southern Honor or Combat Entertainment or Southern Fried or any other number, Anarchy even with Bill Behrens, and a fan would have been that blatantly racist, and a wrestler would have reacted, whether it was with just a middle finger or whether they would have reacted with violence, which is what some people said that they would have done. They were like, I would have beat the guy up, I would have snatched him over, whatever the case may be. How many promoters do you actually think would have been like, oh, man, we can't use you now because you reacted to that fan who was using racial slurs towards you?
I think the number would be really low, extremely low.
Exactly. And even if the promoter did say, hey, I can't use you because of this, they would have talked to the wrestler first and been like, hey, what happened out there? Mika, you've been in the back and play of shows. You've seen promoters and bookers say, hey, what happened out there? And then the guy explains himself, say, well, look, this is why I did this and this is what happened. Oh, okay. And either it's, okay, we move past it and it's no big deal, or hey, we got to do something about this. So that's mainly the majority of the story. I feel like there's a lot of things about this story that's come out and stuff. A lot of comments and statuses that I've seen that's really hurt my feelings. One of the biggest, and I'm not gonna say hurt my feelings because I'm not some sensitive punk. I'm not some sensitive guy. But one of the things that really disappointed me were fans and other wrestlers who were like, oh, well, Bobo Brazil and Harlem Heat and Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, they were all called all these racial slurs and they never reacted this way. You just need to grow thicker skin. And in my opinion, I shouldn't have to grow thicker skin. The same way nowadays professional wrestling, we don't tolerate, sexist rhetoric, and we don't tolerate homophobic rhetoric. Why is it okay for me to still accept racist rhetoric and just say, hey, you have to grow thicker skin? But if I was to use a homophobic slur against Effie or Jamie Senegal or Ashley Starr, it would be a huge problem. And every fan, nobody would look at them and say, oh, well, that's just the world. You have to grow thicker skin, Effie. I'm sorry you said that, but come on, Jamie Senegal. This is wrestling, and at least, be glad that you got that kind of heat. Only when it comes to racism should we be glad that we have that kind of heat. Not when it comes to females, not when it comes to people of the LGBTQ community do we say, oh, be glad that you got that kind of heat. It's no, that kind of speech is not tolerated.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. Let me come off of Switzerland and go back to something and try to put it in context. This is not the first time that someone has been blatantly racist towards you.
No.
And this is Alabama. I mean, I hate to categorize, but being from the South, being in the South, we know that there are certain parts of the South that we are going to have some kind of uncomfortableness, be it either blatant racism, undertones of racism, being the only person of color, or a handful of people in color. So this situation, while you were the heel and you were doing something to, fire these fans up, as some, I guess, I want to say it's some older wrestlers or old school wrestlers or just some people in general who are giving you, some flack saying, hey, suck it up, Buttercup. This is wrestling. This is heat. Why? You mentioned, gay or homophobic, but why is this so different than getting heat and having people yell and scream and be angry? This guy clearly lost his shit, pardon my French, over not paying attention to him and ignoring him and eventually flipping him off. How is that not heat compared to any other form of heat any place else that you've gotten?
See, the thing is, like I said, it's not so much like with the joke. Like, first of all, like in 2019, we can't be like, hey, it's okay for people to use racial slurs and that's just wrestling. Like, that's not acceptable. The reason why this is different is because A, times are different. B, because there are kids there, and we have learned that racism is something that is taught. You're not born racist. You're taught to be a racist. And in the world that we live in today, there's no room for racism. In this world of professional wrestling, and wrestling is doing so well these days, whether it's in big cities or small towns, there's no room for what we consider a family-friendly show for racism. When I originally made the post, it was because I didn't want people to smear my name. I didn't want this picture to come out and all of a sudden I'm behind the curve. I wanted to go ahead and get ahead of it and say, hey, look, this is why I'm not coming back to this show. I don't want your fans to think that, oh, he's just not coming back anymore, or what the case may be. It's like, no, I was coming back. And because this situation happened, the promoter, the owner of the company decided to side with the fans and not with the actual wrestler. He decided to not bring me back for reacting for reacting to a racial slur instead of saying, you know what, it was wrong, but I understand why you did it.
How this promoter, is this a seasoned promoter? Is this someone a few years into the business who, is looking probably maybe at more the, I don't want to call it the fairness of it, but this sounds to me like some new age millennial where if you're wrong, you're both wrong. Even though you might be right, if you did wrong, you're wrong.
No, from what I've heard, from what I've learned about this promoter, he's very new to the company. He's very new to the business. Not very full, I guess. And I don't want to slander the guy. This is allegedly. From what
you already called him racist. So I mean, what more could you possibly do?
I said, in my opinion. So
you called him racist.
Allegedly, in Alabama and in that area, he's not very well received by a lot of the more established wrestlers. A lot of his other promoters, a lot of the fellow promoters in that area don't like to do business with him. He supposedly was under investigation for food stamp fraud and all these other things, tax fraud and stuff like that. So, no, is he a Bill Barron's kind of guy? No. Is he a Stephen Chapman kind of guy? No. Is he a Gary Lamb promoter? No. He's just a small-town wrestling indie promoter in small-town Alabama.
So, yeah, somebody who clearly doesn't have a grasp on how to handle these situations. Let's talk a little bit about the picture and how do you feel about, the picture of you doing this, like the flipping off? And do you feel that perhaps you should have done more now in hindsight as this was going on?
No. As far as the picture goes, I don't want people to think I'm some kind of social justice warrior, because I'm not. This is not, on the same level of Kaepernick taking a knee because of police brutality. This is not in the same vein of, Martin Luther King in D.C. and stuff, giving the I Have a Dream speech. This is not Malcolm X, at the window with the AK-47. This is not an iconic picture. This is just a picture of me responding to something negative, and I think that it's kind of taking a life of its own, where people are like, "Hey, we're not standing up. We're not taking any kind of racism anymore." Especially a lot of black wrestlers and black wrestling fans have kind of taken this picture and been like, "Hey, this is, for lack of a better phrase, this is our version of Kaepernick taking a knee," and that was not my intention. Do I feel like I should have done more? No, because I feel like if I would have done like some people said, and I would have cussed the guy out or hit the guy or beat him up, took him outside, beat him up, in my opinion, I would have went to jail. And I don't want to get locked up in Alabama. B, this would have been proving him wrong. This would have been proving him right. And I'm trying to be, and I'm not perfect. I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not. I'm a very flawed human being. You can ask my wife; she'll tell you I'm a very flawed. But this is more me being Malcolm after Mecca than me as Malcolm with the Nation of Islam, if that makes sense. This is me not really saying I'm going to be nonviolent, but this is me solidly saying, hey, I need the whole world to see me give you the finger. This is just me giving you a little small gesture to let you know, hey, I don't appreciate what you said.
All right. And what do you say to those who, say that words can't hurt you, that they were just words, that the strength of your character is more than any word that any person can say about or to you?
I think that, it is so funny because I'm a proponent for bullying. I think that if you know me in personal life, in my personal life, you'll hear me say, hey, I don't believe in this whole anti-bullying stuff, because bullying gets you prepared for the real world. It gets you prepared to deal with the assholes that's going to be at your job and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like when it comes to when it comes to racist slurs and homophobic and sexist remarks and stuff, that goes beyond bullying. That comes from a place of hatred. This guy and his girlfriend didn't know me. This is the first time they'd ever laid eyes on me, but he had already judged me. And like I said before, this is not the first time that this gentleman had made statements like that towards black wrestlers at that show. So he has a history of being hateful. And so it's not so much that words hurt, but the meaning behind the words hurt. When words come from a place of hatred, it affects you. When words come from a place of love, it can make your day. Just somebody saying, hey, how are you? Hey, you know what? I like your hair. Hey, those are really nice shoes. It makes you feel good. When people talk to you with words based out of hatred, it also affects you as a person. It makes you think. It makes you feel a certain way, and how you react to it depends on you as an individual.
So what lessons would you hope that people pick up from this incident? What would you share with your children about this incident?
We've talked to my youngest daughter about this and stuff. And so it's all, I think the lesson is, don't let people, first of all, you are not what people call you, you are what you respond to, first of all. Second of all, you should never tolerate hate or hateful speech. There's no room, not only in professional wrestling, but in the world, for hateful speech. And I've always taught my children to not be bullies. And if you see somebody bullying somebody, to stand up to them. If we want to make this world better, if we want to make professional wrestling better, then we have to fight this. We have to make this, and we have to be open about it. We have to be transparent. Like I said, I've just done the Georgia Wrestling History podcast, The Tipping Point, with Stephen Platinum and Larry Goodman, two people that you definitely know, Mika. It's something that I've said on that show, I want to say on this show, is that just like homophobia in wrestling, just like sexism in wrestling, it's not going to change until we admit that there's still racism when it comes to professional wrestling. That wrestling, unlike any other sport, is not really you're not successful based on your actual athletic merits or your promo skills. You're rewarded because somebody with a pencil is sitting in a chair saying, hey, we're going to give you a win. But none of this is going to change until we acknowledge that, hey, there's still racism when it comes to professional wrestling. That there are still racist promoters, there are still racist bookers, there are still racist wrestlers, there's still racist ideology when it comes to professional wrestling. And until we're transparent about that, then nothing will change. So we have to go ahead and say, hey, look, there's still people who are racist in professional wrestling. And we need to call these people out and say, hey, we don't like the way you do business. And you have to do more than just not go to the show. Because it's tax time, ladies and gentlemen. And we know, and we've seen people that still continue to run shows, and they have 7 to 15 fucking people. All right? So just not fucking, just, even if you don't support them financially, it's not going to change it. You have to call them out. You have to say, hey, you're racist. Or this person's racist, or that's racist, that's homophobic, that's sexist, and put them on the hot plate. Social media is probably one of the most powerful tools that we have when it comes to combating hate.
So you say that wrestling, basically a call to arms about racist promoters, racist performers, and putting, racist fans on notice that that's not something that's acceptable. It's not just in wrestling. We still do live in a world where there is blatant racism all over the place. So not just in wrestling, because wrestling is just a small slice, I think, of the world that we live in. So telling everyone that this is not acceptable behavior, that racism will not be tolerated in and around wrestling, hopefully will translate back into the quote unquote real world. And I think that is one of the most powerful lessons that could come from this, where, it's okay to hate a heel. It's okay to be upset at the bad guy, but understand in this context, in this world, when you're upset with someone, you don't attack their religion, their race, their sex, and you definitely don't want to come across and say, because this person's black, because this person's white, because this person's this, and use slurs. That's just a no-no. And like you said, there were children there in the actual event that you were at, and I think that hopefully someone sits these kids down and tells them, this is why this was wrong. That is why you don't say that, or that is not a good thing to say.
Exactly. And to all the people who are commenting on social media, on the post, on the Georgia Wrestling post, or my post, or any of the posts that were shared, to say that I need to grow a thicker skin is demeaning and it's dismissive, and it's not attacking the problem head on. You know what I'm saying? I feel that if you're telling me I need to grow a thicker skin, then you're just basically accepting the status quo for what it is. And something that was pointed out to me was the fact that the majority of people, while there were black wrestlers and there were black fans who were saying the same thing, the majority of the people who said that were older white men who don't understand what it's like to be, for somebody to try to demean them as a man, who don't really have to worry about dealing with racist slurs and stuff. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to worry about the society that we live in because they're white and they're older white men, and this is how they grew up. So I think that, like, with just like any other movement, and not only professional wrestling but society, I think that we just need to take this situation and just do better. That's about it. I just think that we need to do better, and we don't have to, and we have to realize that we don't have to accept this. I'm very, very proud of the fact that there are several wrestlers that was working for Southeastern Pro Wrestling, namely G Smooth and Matt Cedar Collins, who was the tag team champions there, who both personally messaged me and said, hey, look, we don't appreciate the way this situation was handled. We feel the same way you do. And so we're going to do business, but we're going to go there, we're going to drop the titles, and we're not going to have anything else to do with this company. And so I applaud that. And I think that we need more people like that, professional wrestling, who are going to say, I will pass up this booking and I'll go work somewhere else because I don't want to be associated with you as a person, you as a company, or you as a business.
That is commendable, because again, for those who just don't understand independent wrestling, while there are tons and tons of companies out there in the world, you get booked, you get put on, and you win championships. That is extra kind of guaranteed money in your pocket. So for those guys to take a stand and say, you know what, I don't want to deal with the likes of you. I'm going to do the right thing professionally, but I'm going to stop doing business with you. That is commendable. And those are two stand-up gentlemen right there, because again, you want to send a message that this is wrong and this is not good. And you will have to explain down the line, that promoter, those people showing up looking to see these performers, going, why aren't they here? And then saying, this is why they're not here, because no one wants to come into a situation, into an atmosphere where there is that uncomfortableness, that just underlying tension that racism brings. Because again, my running joke is that I hate everybody equally. It's part joke, part true. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care your religion, your creed, anything like that. I either like you as a person, as a human, or I don't. And I don't care about anything in between. It's how our individual conversations, our relationship is. It has nothing to do with anything outside of who you are as a person. And I really feel, and I continue to feel, that as we get older, as there are more children brought into this world, that hopefully we can take those children and teach them to be better than us, that racism will eventually fade away, that sexism will fade away, that everything that is bad in this world, the things that we've suffered ourselves and our ancestors, that'll go away until the point where, it sounds funny, that we will all love one another, that there won't be anything. Racism will be something that they'll look at the history books and go, really? People were upset about, the color of skin? That's stupid. That's where I want the world to be. And I think people coming together and standing up for what is right, and again, teaching the next generation, no matter whether it be somebody, a babe in arms, or if it's somebody, hell, 6 months younger than you, that you've changed and swayed and led them down the right path to show them that wrong is wrong and right is right. That is powerful. That is something that I think, as wrestling is this brotherhood, this fraternity of individuals, that can help teach everyone in and around wrestling, and hopefully eventually the world.
Exactly. So that's about it. That's the story. That's how I feel for the most part. That's my reaction to the entire situation. Like I said, I don't consider myself some social justice warrior. I think that there are people on the front lines who are way more influential than I am. And like I said, I never meant for this to become the wrestling viral story that it's become. But I would like to say thank you to everybody who has messaged me personally, whether through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, email. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for your love. For everybody that shared it, I would like to say thank you as well for getting the story out. But like I said, I don't consider myself a beacon of social justice, even though my wife has said that she thinks that even though this was a bad situation, that we've made the best of a bad situation, because now we put the spotlight in a situation like this. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's the story right there. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, Mika. I think that I'm still going to have to talk about this because it's such a hot button issue that there's so many other podcasts that really want to have this story, and they have a bunch of different questions and stuff they want to ask me. So I know that this will not be the last time that I talk about this, but I definitely want to get this story out on our show without interruption, without a guest and stuff. I just wanted to get our story out, and then next week we're right back to the races. But Mika, what do you have going on this week?
Let's see. This week, man, this week has flown. Okay, this has been crazy. We talked about Alabama. We kind of started this thing with Alabama. I'm going to end it with Alabama. We'll be back in Alabama this Sunday in Piedmont, Alabama, for Combat Entertainment. I've been taking it easy on these shows in the Atlanta area, and I apologize, guys. It's just been really hectic and crazy. But I'll be back at Combat doing commentary with, of course, Danny Danger, part of Wrestling's Cutest commentary team, as we watch Eddie Kingston come to town and take on the Armor of the Hierarchy. That's going to be a hell of a fight. Roar is coming back. I'm excited. Roar is our female division, and there is going to be Roar action in Piedmont, Alabama. This will be the first time that I've been part of Combat, that they're outside of, the state of Georgia. I think this is our first time outside the state of Georgia. So this is going to be exciting and new, and to watch these fans get a taste of not just Combat, but of Roar, I'm excited. I know Aria Blake is scheduled to be there, and Aria and I have not seen eye to eye. That's because she's short. But again, she's dangerous, and I'm hoping that, if somebody comes in and takes care of Aria, that'll be great. I'll be unbiased as a commentator, but I'll be happy as a fan. But yeah, that's my focus, my week leading up to that. I've got some prep work to do to kind of get myself ready and prepared for the matches coming up, and just kind of chilling out. And that'll be the only show that I'm really focusing on. Of course, that's always subject to change. You just gotta stay tuned to my social media and see.
Well, let's see. Busy week for me, like you said. Started this week in Alabama. Going to finish this week in Alabama. Friday, Fort Valley, Georgia, AWN. Going to try to reclaim my National Syndicate Wrestling and Heavyweight Championship from Tyson Dean. And then Saturday, Nova Pro in Virginia. Nova Pro tryout. I'm going to try to broaden my horizons in Virginia. I haven't wrestled in Virginia in so long. So I'm trying to go back to Virginia and wrestle. And then Sunday, like you said, making my return back to Alabama. And ladies and gentlemen, I know that everybody in Alabama is not like this gentleman from Carbon Hill. So damn it, Sunday, come out. Let's have a great time for combat entertainment. That's about it, I think. That's about it. So anything else, Mika, before we wrap it up?
Just that stay tuned to all of our social media, because again, you're going to see lots of stuff coming out from us. Of course, we're live on Twitch as we do this now. You guys can go back and watch the Twitch stream or listen to this Twitch stream. Stay tuned to my social medias. I'll be sending out some updates on what's happening in and around myself, and also I might, tell people what's happening with you too, Huck, because, you're challenged as far as technology goes. So I may help you out, oh man.
Whatever. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in with us. Whether you're on Mika's Facebook Live, whether you're listening to this on your favorite audio, whatever app and stuff, whether it's iTunes or Podbean or YouTube, or whether you're checking us out on Twitch, thank you for checking in with us. We'll be back next week. So on behalf of our network, the Angry Marks Podcast Network, on behalf of our sponsors, Indie Customs, Pro Wrestling World and Behavior Driven, on behalf of our amazing producer, the man, the myth, the legend, CW, on behalf of my co-host, one half of the world's cutest commentary team, The Office, the voice of Mucha Lucha Atlanta and Combat Entertainment and all your other favorite indie companies. She is the lover of waffles, the voice of the speech impediment, the Aphrodite of affection, the receiver of all things unsolicited, and keep those unsolicited messages coming, ladies and gentlemen. She is Miss Chicago Win, Miss Hashtag What That Mouth Do, a.k.a. Bob Mia Taco, the lover of Himalayan water, blessed by Tibetan monks, the one, the only Mika Villas. I am your World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, the disrespectful intellectual, the Southern gentleman, the reality TV star and national treasure, the morning star, the incredible Huck, Will Huckaby, saying peace out, fuck racism, and support indie wrestling.
Bye-bye.